What's up, everybody, and welcome to another wonderful week of Nintendo news and Switch splendor. We've got 3 interesting stories chronicling a new ARMS fighter and a datamine confirmation, a surprise Nintendo PAX panel, and Michael Pachter putting a little bit of negativity into his Switch-stirring pot. We're going to start off with the lovely Jake reporting live from Biff's new headquarters.
All right, so this is what I'm super excited for because I did the video presenting the data mined information about potentially new characters, including a plant-based character, a scroll-based character, and a sweet candy-based character. And this image of Biff on vacation in this Candyland type scenario all but confirms that there is going to be a candy fighter coming to ARMS. This is set up just like a stage. It even has the fans in the background. And if you look closely, you can see they have something on their heads, like in their hair, like almost like I don't know if it's like lollipop stuck in their hair or what. You can closely analyze that for yourself. But Biff is just chilling, eating some cookies and coffee. But this definitely looks like a stage for a sweet character, both sweet as in the flavor and sweet as in really, really cool. I'm really interested to see what kind of character they make. Is it going to be like a licorice fighter or a taffy fighter, or is it going to be, I don't know. Somebody in the comments before said like a jawbreaker would be a good name for an arm or even for the character. But I'm just interested to see if they make it like if it's going to be like a masculine dude who's like a big candy like connoisseur, or if it's going to be like a dainty little girl who is full of sweet punches. But either way, super exciting that this is basically saying, hey, we have more new fighters to come, and they are not going to be generic. They are still sticking with their kind of beginning pledge that every character is going to be based on something stretchable, and I can't wait to see. Also, this confirms that the data mine was accurate, so there's going to be a scroll character and a plant character at some point, most likely, unless they cancel them. So I'm really interested to see those characters as well.
I'm interested to see if this is going to breathe a little bit of new life into the player base. The problem with ARMS, at least in people's minds, has been the absence of content. And a new character, new level, new ARMS, in theory, with the new character. I wonder if that's going to be enough to get people on board a little bit more. Not that there's no one playing ARM. A lot of people are still enjoying the game, but that has been a complaint, so it will be interesting.
I definitely like the looks of this. I like a sweet, sweet character. I feel like we're going to enter a digital Candyland, which is something that I desire much. I also wonder if Biff will ever become the fighter that we wish he will be. Like, is that sort of an end game ARMS thing that Biff is introduced in the game? I feel like at this point he is such an icon for the series that he has to appear, right?
He's just so small. That's the only thing. Like, it's not going to work out. Like, he's a tiny, tiny dude.
Yeah, and that could be the surprise. There's one character in the data mine files labeled surprise, and maybe the surprise is that Biff becomes a fighter in the end.
I still think surprise is Little Mac. I don't know why, but that's what I think. That's what
I think it's going to be like a Gesture Jack in the Box character, like that version of surprise, but I don't know. We'll see.
I would like the Baja Men to make an appearance after that dog call out.
Okay.
In the meantime, though, Nintendo is arriving at PAX West. And now this isn't anything out of the ordinary. They normally have a sizable presence at PAX West. They'll also be at Gamescom later this month. But Gabe, they're doing something a little different this time, and we wonder what it might lead to.
It is a special panel on Saturday, September 2nd, 10 a.m. At the Hydra Theater, 10 a.m. Pacific, for those of you wondering. So if you're going to be at PAX and you are a fan of Nintendo, which you might be if you're watching us, this might be a panel that you might want to attend. It's an hour long. That's basically all we know. There are theories that, hey, could it be Metroid related? Could it be Mario Odyssey related? Like, what could this be? Like, what are they going to talk about at PAX for an hour? Because they're probably still going to have their games on the show floor like they always do. But they have an actual, like, panel at the Hydra Theater, which is weird, right? For a company like that to have?
I think it's interesting because there's not a lot of precedent for it, and what are they going to talk about? I mean, they did do some interesting things earlier this year where they kind of highlighted some of the early concepts for Zelda Breath of the Wild, and they went through their design process, which was a very cool idea. It didn't reveal anything brand new for the Switch per se, but it was a nice way to just get more info from a company that at times, or more often than not, isn't very revealing in that way, and just really cool to hear. So maybe it is something perhaps like a Super Mario Odyssey behind the scenes deep dive, or maybe it'll function as a little bit of a mini direct. Maybe they'll debut some indie stuff. PAX West has a big indie focus, so maybe they will use that as an opportunity to announce some launch dates or launch something that weekend. I doubt we get anything major like, holy crap, we're announcing a new game, or like, this is going to be the reveal of Donkey Kong for Switch or the Smash Bros. I don't think anything of that nature, but it would be cool if they would give us some nuggets. I think the indie route is possibly the most likely.
Yeah,
that's true.
That makes sense because, like you said, there is a huge indie presence at PAX. But then, why would Nintendo be the one spearheading that though? That's the only thing that I don't quite understand. Like,
I mean, it's their system, so
sure, but you would imagine that these aren't going to be like Switch exclusive indies. So I mean,
that'd be so cool though if they came out and were like, here's a bunch. Indie games have been doing really well on the Nintendo Switch, so here is a handful of Nintendo licensed indie type games, and they came out with like Captain Toad and like a Yoshi mini game and like a bunch of other like small like $10-$20 games that they could put out in the eShop. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I think that is probably. I mean, Metroid's also another thing. You know, the
But do you
fact
think
that
they
the
really
game does come
use
out.
it to announce like anything really major or new, or is it more of like a showcase to show off stuff that they've already shown and maybe like go deeper into them?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like, Metroid does come out 2 weeks after PAX West, so perhaps they're like, hey, like a Metroid retrospective panel. I mean,
that could be very cool.
I can't see them doing anything major. I feel like Nintendo wants to own that moment. I mean, greatest scenario in the world is a live Nintendo Direct, but don't think that happens.
Yeah, no way. They like to be very controlled about those.
So we'll have to stay tuned. Not sure that any of us are going to be at PAX Prime this year, but we will definitely keep our tabs on that. And if we are there, we'll be sure to go. The last story for the day comes in from Michael Pachter, who I feel has all along been quite positive about the Switch, and in general, people have been very hyped about the sales and Nintendo, raising their expectations. But Pachter now has a little bit of a weird prediction as he compares the Switch to portables, saying that he doesn't expect it to do very well or compete with some of their past portables. He talks about how Sony has not found much success. Much major success with their PSP or Vita, especially in the Western market. Microsoft has never dipped their toes into the handheld market, and now Nintendo with their hybrid console at $300, he feels like will sell lifetime 50 million, and he even questions if they'll reach 10 million by the end of their first fiscal year. He says, quote, if they keep the price at 300, it'll sell 50 million. If they cut the price to 200 pretty quickly, it will sell 70 million. If they cut the price to 100, it will sell 90 million. But at a price, everything is all based on supply and demand. If demand goes up, then price goes down. So success at $300, then there's no way they're selling more than 50 million. No chance. Which I think is, it's just speculation, but it's an interesting way of looking at it. The fact that this is, if you consider from a handheld perspective, Nintendo's most expensive handheld, but from a console perspective, it's fine. So I don't know if he is giving a little too much credence to the handheld nature of the Switch. I don't know. I mean, 50 million would be a huge improvement over Wii U.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting because I've seen multiple threads about people talking about how they're like convinced that it's a handheld and view it that way and have like points to argue that it is a handheld, which I kind of get, but I'm also not 100% on board with. Like, I still can't think you can really label it as a handheld or a console. I still think it's a hybrid and something new and different. And I think that the games are going to dictate how well it sells, and it'll be interesting to see how much Mario Odyssey can push out new Switches, and if they are able to cut the price relatively soon at all, even if it's not 300 or 200, but even like 250 or something relatively soon, if they could do that with that, how that affects the Switch sales.
How much does this even have to do with the fact that Nintendo can't even keep these things in store? Like, they're having trouble on the manufacturing side of things. Like, they don't have, like, all the components and parts needed to make as many of these as they would probably like to make right away. So, I don't know how much that ties into it. Lifetime, at some point, yes, these things will be readily available at any store you walk into. But I mean, there seems to be enormous demand for the Switch. A lot of people still can't get their hands on one, even though they are more and more common. Like, people are finding the console easier now for sure. But the fighting Apple on components, like, how much does that have to do with how many they end up selling?
I think that's something that they overcome after the first year or so. I don't think this is going to be constrained, like you mentioned, forever. I think it's going to be readily available at some point. I think we pulled this quote from Nintendo Enthusiast, and they actually have a nice little analysis here where they say that Pachter is off base by comparing this to other Nintendo handhelds rather than Nintendo home consoles, because 50 million units would tie the Switch as the third best selling Nintendo home console ever, and if it reached 70 million, which is his middle prediction, it would be higher than the original NES. So from a handheld perspective, yes, those numbers aren't where Nintendo would like to be, considering the DS and things of that sort. But considering that, I feel Pachter's a little bit disingenuous trying to relate this strictly to other handhelds. Home console-wise, that would be a huge success. I mean, if they're able to surpass 10 million in the first year, that already puts them neck and neck with the Wii U, which took 4 years. And just in general, the Switch has been out, what now? We're in the middle of August. It came out in March. So we're at, 5-ish months. It's far too early to tell any lifetime, sales figure.
Yeah, but he does get paid a lot of money to speculate these things, and he does have some knowledge of how the industry works and the ebbs and flows of it in general.
Sure.
So, but not to say that Michael Pachter's this like prediction guy, like he's wrong all the time, but he's also right sometimes. So it could go either way.
I do think it really boils down to if you view this as a home or as a handheld, and that's kind of determining what is success. I think first you have to decide that, and maybe it's a whole new kind of success because maybe hybrid is the way to go. It's interesting that he predicts that no one will copy them and make another hybrid, like Sony or Microsoft won't come out with something that does a similar idea, which for me just increases the chances of this becoming a sales star because nothing else like it. They'll continue to make PS5, Xbox One X, yada yada. That's fine. That's great. We'll still play those, and those will be big sellers. But Nintendo having its own space, especially in a mobile and very transient era, I think it still could continue to sell very well for years to come. But let us know your take in the comments down below. Are you pumped for the Candy Fighter? Do you think Biff will ever appear in ARMS? What do you think Nintendo will talk about at this PAX West panel? And how do you feel about Michael Pachter predicting 50 million lifetime sales for the Switch? Let us know your take in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you're having a great start to your week. We'll keep you filled in with all the Nintendo news as it drops. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching. For myself, Jake, and Gabe, Switch Force out.